Hey, Ruston, thanks for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet. Well, I'm excited to hear about Hotter N Hell today.
We're good. Yeah, we're excited about it. A lot of people seem to like it so far.
Well, it's something I've been following for a long time, and I see that it's really grown, and a lot of people are using the product, and it seems like it's popular, but it must be a great product if that many people are continuing to use it.
That's kind of why we chose that product to launch initially because we ended up, we have a lot of blends that we can manufacture, but we really wanted something that everybody's going to use, that people are going to fall in love with and, continually buy. And so we landed on our degreaser blend, which was the Hotter N Hell, and yeah, it's taken off. So it's been
Yeah,
great.
that's so exciting. And you were telling me before that this started because you'd used a different product at a previous job.
So yes, my business partner David Stoltz, he owned Agile Oilfield Services, and we were a fleet wash company doing drilling rigs, frac pumps, heavy equipment, and we were always looking for something that can cut down wash hours. Like, what can we do to wash faster? It's more efficient. Customers are happier. So we were always trying different degreasers and soaps and all sorts of things. And so somebody recommended that we talk to this chemist who had been developing products for 30 years. He gave us the blend for Hotter N Hell, and we tried it and just absolutely fell in love with it. And we said, this is the best soap we've ever had. So we purchased the blend and the rights to it and everything, and we manufactured it just for our personal use. Well, immediately we had shop hands taking it home to wash their trucks, and they just fell in love with it. And we thought, okay, this could be something that we could commercialize. So I really wasn't happy at Agile after a while, and neither was David. And so he contacted me and said, hey, if I fund this, can you sell it? And I'm like, yeah, I think I can sell just about anything, so let's give it a shot. So we took the time. We set up a big bulk facility. We are located in Odessa. We've got a big manufacturing plant there, and it took about a year. Uh, David has some patents for some grease pans that the frac companies love, and we used all the profits from that for about a year and set up our bulk facility and set everything up right, and we manufacture a whole lot of it. And
Yeah.
yeah, we steadily, over about 2 years, have introduced it to the Permian, and now we're shipping all over the country.
Wow, that's so exciting.
Yeah, so it's been a wild ride.
Was it an easy product to sell when you first got started?
No, because there's 100 degreasers out there, and everybody makes one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a lot of people think that we're just mixing like soap powder and water, and blending it in a tote and calling it the same thing as everybody else is.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot more that goes into it than that. So we buy all of our chemicals in bulk by the trailer load. We set up. We have a specialty mixer called a ribbon mixer, which is very hard to find, very expensive, and we set that up so we can blend 8 to 10,000 gallons at a time. So that means every gallon that goes out is the exact same. There's no variations. We have one person that mixes, so everything's the same. But when you launch a new product like that, everyone that has been in the Permian, they know there's 10,000 people selling chemicals. There's everyone selling soap,
Right.
and everyone assumes it's just based on price. So that's kind of why we chose the name Hotter N Hell, because if you walk in to buy soap off the storefront and you see Purple Power and Hotter N Hell, which one sounds more effective?
Right.
And
Yeah, that's
so
true.
we chose that brand, and we decided that we're going to use all the profits from the grease pans to just focus on marketing. So we kind of did things a little differently. We don't have fancy sales trucks. We don't take customers to lunch. We don't do any big promotions. Everything is targeted online marketing, and it seems to be working out very well so far. So
Yeah.
now that it's taken off so well, we're using the profits from our degreaser to now launch our hand cleaner, and once that takes off, we'll use the hand cleaner to launch something else. And so
Yeah.
it's just organically growth, and it's been really good. It's been a fun ride.
Yeah, and it's like you guys were really set up to be successful because you'd had the experience, you knew what wasn't working, but you also knew what was working.
Exactly.
And like in the Permian, especially, like everyone's always washing something, whether it's a rig or, some kind of unit or just like the wind blows, everything's dusty,
Yes, ma'am.
everything's getting greasy. And so it is really important to be able to streamline every process and to enjoy that work and it not be something that you're fighting all the time.
For sure.
So if you get that kind of quality product and you're excited to use it and it's so effective, then that word of mouth is going to spread also, because with organic growth and the right kind of marketing, you are going to tap into the people that are just wanting to tell others about this great product they're using.
Yes, ma'am.
So, that's awesome. And that's going to happen when you have a really great product. And so you had this chemist that had developed these patents 30 years ago, but he wasn't doing anything with them.
No, he was kind of an eccentric guy. He'd manufacture a blend for lotion, and then he'd manufacture a blend for shampoo and laundry detergent and so on and so forth. And so we were just so impressed with everything that he had that we purchased the blends. And so we have all that to be rolled out over the next couple of years. But the way that we looked at it is, what's something that everyone needs? And every company in West Texas has a wash bay, have heavy equipment that they have to clean and they have to maintain. And so it's something where even if we only have 5 to 10% of the market share out there, that's a staggering number.
Yeah.
So it took some time for people to try it and use it, and eventually it just kind of exploded on its own. And so now our second option was, what's something else that everybody in the Permian has? Well, they all have sinks.
Yeah.
They all wash their hands.
Right.
So that's why we launched our grit hand cleaner.
Oh, that's huge.
And
I know when I saw that one, that was really exciting to me, because I don't do that kind of work anymore. But like I can remember, was it Joe's hand cleaner?
Joe's and Gojo are the two big ones.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
and I can remember using those and needing it. Like when you get that dirt, like you aren't just using soap and water.
Yes, ma'am.
Like you really need a powerful product. And so when I saw that, I thought it was really cool, because, I mean, you're right. It's like that is a natural progression. Well, now that the degreaser has basically sold itself and now it can pay for this next investment, it's very organic, because it's these guys that are cleaning the bays, now they're using that same product, that same quality, to clean their hands.
Exactly. So each product sells the next one. And so what really took us some time to figure out is, we like to say that I'm the gas pedal and David's the brake.
Oh,
So
nice.
he's very, very smart at what he does, and we have a book of products that we can sell immediately. And so I'm always wanting to say, well, this customer wants this, we can make it and get, a 6-figure PO coming in. Well, that's not really an organic way to grow, because it's not constant. And so that's why we decided, let's be the best degreaser company that we can be. We want everybody to know our name, and then we'll transition from there. So when we launched, we immediately had customers that were contacting us about private labeling, wanting to buy in bulk and launch their own stuff. And so we had to put a stop to all that. We said, no. Even if you're going to take less margin, we'd rather sell less product and our name. We want to build our brand.
Yeah.
And so we feel like we've built a pretty successful brand. I've had people from all over the country have called me, and they know who we are, which is
Yeah.
kind of a strange feeling.
Right, isn't it?
But yeah, so we're really glad that we did that. We built the brand first, and now we have people that are contacting us wanting to work as distribution channels. So we've got a lot of phenomenal distributors out in the Permian, and we just sent a whole bunch out to like Arizona. We're going to Arkansas, Louisiana, North Dakota. So it's nice to see people get involved and believe in the product and get it in front of more people.
Oh, yeah. Those brand partnerships can make all the difference, because it's not just that one company or that one person. They're advocating for you in entire networks that you haven't even tapped into. Or maybe there's some cross promotion that's happening where
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
recognized.
Well, so we wanted to just be a manufacturer. We didn't want to do direct sales, and we wanted to only sell through distribution channels. Well, then we started having people contacting us about, well, they want to be the exclusive for DFW, and they want to be the exclusive for Houston, which I understand, but I don't think a lot of people really understand what they're asking for, because you're asking for a potentially $10 million area without any, projectable results. So we try to work with customers that have storefronts that are established and that can really help grow our name and their name, because we get asked every day where people can get our products. And so we like to point them out to those people. And so now we're finally getting to a point where we can just be a manufacturer, and I can just direct people to go to Matador or go to West Texas Def or Tommy Watt Supply, and just allow people to go purchase from them, and they buy wholesale from us, and everybody wins.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to finally get to that place and just be a bulk manufacturer.
Yeah, because there's so much that goes into that entire process, being able to focus focus on that one main source,
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
going to allow you just to get stronger and to, I mean, to have trust in those partners. And I mean, absolutely, West Texas Steph, that's one that I will see that pushes your
Yeah,
product.
Paula's great. We
She
love
is.
her.
Yeah, she's awesome and she really believes in it. And I recognize your brand with her. Just it's seamless
Yes, ma'am.
because she's, she comes from a place of, authentically representing your brand. She believes in the product.
Exactly.
And so that's something that you just really get to get that value from what she's doing, and she's taking care of the customers, knowing, and you know that she is representing your brand
Yes.
in the customer
Yes.
relationships that she's
So
got.
we had some issues when we first launched. I'm getting phone calls from people saying, "Well, your product doesn't work." Like, okay, well, explain how you're applying it. Explain what you're doing. And so we would do pH testing on it, and it's half strength. And so we were so desperate for sales that we made the mistake of just wholesaling to anybody that wanted to resell it.
Oh,
And so then they're cutting it in half and marketing it as
that
a
is a
full strength
West
product.
Texas move.
Exactly. If you know Midland, you know that that's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Oh man,
So
could have seen that one coming.
exactly. So we had to put a stop to it,
Yeah.
and we started really vetting who we worked with for wholesale accounts. We had to open source our retail pricing, so that way actually we gave enough of a margin that made it attractive for resellers to want to work with us. But as soon as we did that, the volume of distributors went down, but the volume of product going out the door went up drastically. So we feel like that was the right move, and
Yeah.
we've kind of structured that moving forward.
Oh, for sure, because working with the right people is better than working with a lot of people.
Exactly.
Because you wouldn't have expected that, but hearing about it in hindsight, well, of course,
Exactly. We
somebody
should have
was.
seen that coming.
Yeah, because that is, I mean, the West Texas oil field, it's still the Wild West. It's still a little
Yes,
bit
ma'am.
savage, and things are going to happen. And a lot of it, people can get away with doing things like that out there because, one, it's accepted. For the most part, it's just kind of part of the social fabric. It's not accepted as far as like doing good business goes, but like we know that things like that are going to happen. But with West Texas being so far out of your line of vision, if you're not there, there's a lot more that can kind of get disrupted.
Well, I don't know what my distributors are telling their customers.
Yeah.
And so that's why we spoke with people of, okay, do you have a storefront? Do you have a customer base that's existing that's already buying products from you? So you're not going to build a business and get rich just off distributing my products. But if used in conjunction with what you currently have, it can be a great revenue builder.
Yeah.
And so that's how we try to build things. And I really like working with people who represent our product well and will speak highly of it. And I'm happy to send customers their way. And I would much rather do that than have people pick up from my yard.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, absolutely. And that's also kind of getting you out there, more where people are seeing it and there's more locations to
yes,
go
ma'am.
to. It's not just your yard.
Yeah, so our facility here in Fort Worth, it's just manufacturing. There's no local pickup. And so we did have local pickup at our facility on our degreaser, and our hand cleaner is now just distribution only. And so that's the model that we're adopting moving forward now that people know who we are.
Now, when you say that people are starting to buy it all over the country and you're able to ship it out, is it still mostly oil field regions or are you in different markets?
So our degreaser is really all over the country in different markets. We sell to a lot of pressure washing businesses,
Oh, yeah.
municipalities. We sell to a lot of hospitals doing parking lot cleanings, a lot of fast food franchises doing drive-through cleaning, stuff like that. So
Nice.
we try to diversify as much as possible. Granted, our base is oil and gas. That's where we started. That's what we know. So it's been kind of weird to transition into that
Right.
public space, municipalities, government contracts, stuff like that. So that's kind of definitely a big learning curve.
Yeah.
But our main base is certainly oil and gas.
Yeah, and navigating outside of oil and gas is just different. It's a
It's a
different
different
animal.
world, completely different world.
Yeah.
And I'll have guys that call me from Michigan, like, well, give me a free sample because I buy a drum every 3 months. I'm like, well, ProFrac takes 4 totes a week,
Right.
so
Yeah.
and I don't give them free samples. So dealing with that, just a different mindset on how they approach business versus how we've always approached business has taken some getting used to.
Right.
But that's my job, so we're still figuring it out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems like you guys have really like you learn the lessons very quickly. You make the adjustments when you need to, and it's the product sells itself. Now that it has some awareness and brand recognition, like
Yes,
you
ma'am.
say, you're not having to convince people and you really have a solid hold on the, like you said, the way it's distributed and the way you guys are doing business. You're just sticking to your guns and not trying to conform so much to seeing like what other people are doing. I feel like we get a little bit of that in oil and gas, where it's like you have the image of success,
Yes, ma'am.
but you might not necessarily actually be achieving that behind the scenes.
Yeah, so our business really exploded once we learned how to tell people no. If we want some content for some videos and someone wants to try a gallon, if I can come out and go out there with you, I'm happy to do it. But when companies call me and it's, well, we won't buy from you if you won't give us some free product. Okay, we'll go down the road because there's 1,000 companies on that will. And so we don't really have to chase work as much. And so that was a nice change of pace once we figured that out. Because at the beginning, we're so desperate for sales that we realized that we were hurting ourselves by giving away product.
Yeah.
And so finally, we got to a place where, okay, let's take a step back. We're not paying salaries. We're not buying new trucks. We're not doing anything because we're debt free, that we can really focus on just bulk manufacturing. And adopting that was really beneficial.
Yeah, and I mean it's scary because it's like your initial mindset. It's like you want to get it out there, however you
I don't want to give it
can.
away.
You don't
Yeah.
want to give it away, but it's like you want people to try it and like it, and so like really setting that tone
So
early
what we'll
on.
do is if someone contacts me and they are just adamant, it's like I'll sell you a gallon, and then if you're not happy, I'll give you your money back.
That's low risk.
It's low risk because everyone loves it. I
Yeah.
have the reviews to prove it.
Right.
And so we've started doing that, and if I can really tell who just wanted a free gallon and who's serious.
Oh yeah.
Because I do have people that take me up on that, and I've never given a refund. So it's a nice policy that we have.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's awesome. That's very the entry to that
If
is
you're
very
not
low
serious about trying a new product and you can't risk $28, you're not my customer.
for sure.
And so that's how we approach things when people ask me for free product. Like if you're willing to gamble $28 to be more effective in your business, then I'll work with you. But if you're not, then you just want to try it for free.
Yeah, you weren't serious in the first
Exactly.
place. Yeah, and also there could be competitors that are wanting to see what it is, to see what it's
Yeah,
like.
we've had competitors order from our website, and you'd have to send it to a significant lab, and you still wouldn't be able to tell our blending procedures. So we spoke with some chemists about that. What happens if they test it? And you could tell what's in it, but you wouldn't be able to tell blending procedures, mixing quantities, anything like that. So we're not concerned with it.
Right. That's good because you want your product protected as well.
Yes, ma'am. We,
And
we have it trademarked. We have all the paperwork on it, and all the roads lead back to us.
yeah,
So
that's
we're not
awesome.
concerned with it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you said that a big part of building the brand was online marketing.
Yes, ma'am.
So how did you approach that?
Well, so when we launched, I actually lived in Alaska. And then my business partner and his brother were in West Texas at the facility. And so it was really hard for me to do door to door sales, being 4,000 miles away. And so we figured out that he could handle all the bulk manufacturing. Jesse, his brother, would do all of the accounting and administrative duties. And then I would just manage all the online content. And so my LinkedIn's pretty popular. I do lots of LinkedIn marketing. We do targeted marketing on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, across the entire spectrum, and it's consistent. So every single day there's some sort of product that has our branding on it, that has the videos, and we figured out that just being consistent raises curiosity. And eventually we would have enough people that would say yes to trying it that we could get product awareness out. And so after about 2 years, we just got so busy that I couldn't be in Alaska anymore. And so I moved back, and then now we're kind of getting back into a little bit of the door-to-door sales, but it's a lot more targeted because I'm only going after supply companies.
Right.
But yeah, figuring out that I don't have to pay a salesman. I don't have to buy him a new sales truck. I don't have to pay, bar tabs and gas mileages to be able to be consistent and still sell the same amount of product
Yeah.
was huge.
Yeah.
And so all of that money is able to be reinvested in more bulk manufacturing, more facilities. And it's really helped us fight through the price of oil and downturns and all that stuff. We're not concerned about it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, and that's a really great place to be, to have that kind of security and
Yes, ma'am.
confidence in you and your team and your product and how you're doing things. Because as much as I've been involved in oil field networking, a lot of it is very valuable, but there is a lot that can end up wasting your time.
Yes.
And it's like you're building these relationships, but what are you doing with these people?
Well,
And
we figured that out at our previous company because we had 4 or 5 salesmen. We're paying, all of them mileage. We're paying lunch tabs, and we're paying salaries on all this, and the numbers aren't really increasing for revenue. And so we like to call surgical expansion. So we put all of the profit that we had into paying off all of our debts. We're completely debt free, and everything on top of that is focused on bulk manufacturing and stockpiling. So we stockpile chemicals. So when the price of chemicals are high, we've got it covered. We're already good. And then once we were established enough in the Permian, okay, now where's the next place to establish? And for us, that was Fort Worth, just based on shipping prices, because it's cheaper to ship products from Fort Worth than it is Odessa.
okay.
And so now, once Fort Worth will be established, we'll look at the next area. Where's the place to be? And
Yeah.
so we're trying to approach it very intelligently and not just randomly open yards all over the country.
Yeah.
I've got people that want it in North Dakota by the tote. And so I'd love to sell it to you, but when you ship it up there, a lot of times you lose your profit margins.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just tell them all we're working on it. Eventually we'll buy a piece of property up there. We'll set up a mixing facility, and we'll be able to supply different parts of the region.
Yeah, and I can see where North Dakota kind of gets left behind
A little
sometimes.
bit.
You know, they do. Even though it's a huge oil field region, but it's like just kind of not it's not the focal point.
So we tell people, if you have chemicals going up there, we can throw it on the truck. We can
That's what I was
we
just
can
thinking,
figure
like
out bulk options, and we
some
do that a lot
something
for a lot of customers up there. But when somebody wants, just one tote,
that's not going to work.
it's kind of
It
expensive.
needs to be thrown on a truck that's already going
Exactly.
up there, some kind of partnership to where it's like you said, you can't just be doing that. It's not worth your time when the profit margin is that small. And
Exactly. So that's where we get strategic on where we go next. And for us, it was Fort Worth, like I said, and now our shop here is open in manufacturing. And so as soon as hand cleaner starts becoming profitable and paying for itself, we'll look at the next option.
yeah. Yeah, that's really exciting. And it's like it's like you're nurturing that foundation and making sure that the quality is across the board because it's bulk manufactured. So there's never a change in that
Yes,
blending
ma'am.
process. And you know that you have these relationships that you've cultivated with your distributors. So it's not about networking and just continuing to check in on these relationships. You guys have this active partnership where you're benefiting from the work that they're putting in and the products they're selling. Like everyone is getting something out of
Yes,
this.
ma'am. So we spent the money and we had custom filling machine built that's all automated. So all of our assembly lines are automated.
Oh, cool.
I don't have to pay someone to stand there and fill jugs by hand all day. And that really frees
That's awesome
it
too.
frees myself and David up to be able to go to these supply companies and build those relationships.
Yeah,
And so we really try to utilize our time effectively. And
that's important.
it is.
It really is. And understandably, like if you're first getting into sales or you're trying to figure it out, it's like you just have this blank canvas and you're figuring out how to paint it. But if you have sales experience or if you have a product and you're established, then like you said, you can get more into the targeted focus to where you're going after someone that you want them to be a customer. You see the value for
Yes,
them
ma'am.
in using your product. And so you're able to cut out all that extra time invested.
Well, like we were talking about before this, when I first broke out in the oil field, I was taught you have to take them to the bars and you have to pick up their lunch tabs and you have to be on call 24/7 for these customers. And so that's what I knew. And I was a terrible husband. I was a terrible employee because I was constantly striving to just make these customers happy. And once I left that company and started working with David, that's when I realized like we can cut all that out and we can just manufacture a good product and they're going to buy it from us.
Yeah.
And so we saved a ton of money on that. We don't have advertising budgets. We don't have marketing budgets. Like I just handle it all.
Yeah.
And then David focuses on manufacturing and Jesse focuses on administration, and it's just a beautiful partnership. And we've been able to grow it pretty far so far. And we're
Yeah.
excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, no, that's awesome because it's like a trifecta. You guys,
Yes, ma'am.
like, you all have your points that you're taking. You trust each other, and everything flows in a nice harmony.
Yes, ma'am. So yeah, we have people all the time that want to want to invest. They want to become a part of it, and so we just let people know we're happy to look at you as a distributor, but I don't see anyone coming into the company anytime soon. We're
Because it
very
could
happy with where we're at.
it could throw things off, and the bigger that core team gets, it can get watered down,
Yes, ma'am.
because then you're trying to like one position, like, okay, maybe you're pretty busy with what you're doing, but if you try to delegate some of that out to an entire position for someone else, they're not going to be busy enough.
Well, I was very lucky because David was my customer whenever he was the owner of Agile, and they hired me on as a sales guy, and him and I just hit it off and became close. And then when I wasn't really happy with what we were doing, that's when I approached him and I said, "Hey, I'm leaving. I'm going to Alaska." And he supported me. He said, "No problem." And we just stayed close. And then when he contacted me and said, "I have this opportunity. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Absolutely." And so we've only gotten closer since then, and we've covered a lot of ground between there and now. And so I'm excited to see what else we can release and what else is going to be popular. We've tossed around a lot of ideas, and we've got a lot of things coming soon.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, and I mean, you're set up for that. And so I could see that there's just going to be a natural progression where, I mean, Hotter in Hell is just an entire line of industrial products.
That's the plan.
Yeah,
So
I see it.
we try to roll things out strategically. Like I said, what is everyone going to use? And now that people know our brand, they know that we have a good product. So it's less time that I have to convince you to try something.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't have to convince you that my hand soap is great because my degreaser is great.
Mm-hmm.
And it's manufactured in the same facility by the same people, and you know it's going to be effective. And so it's been a lot easier transition to the second product, and I think it's going to be even easier when we transition to the third.
Yeah, I mean, you have a fan base of it. Like, they're going to be excited to try what's next.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know about fan base, but I'm glad to hear people like it.
Well, I think it's something to be a fan of, like being a customer, and just when you're invested in your work, and you're invested in, like, you want your trucks to look nice, you want your equipment to be running as efficiently as possible, like, to have a product like that is so different
Yes,
on the
ma'am.
market. I think it's something to be a customer of and also a fan of, because it's nice to see the oil field raising the standards and raising the quality of the output.
Yeah, absolutely. We decided early on we're not going to sell based on price. I have customers that call me all the time saying, "Well, this is what we're paying for our current degreaser." And it's like, "Well, that's great. Then why are you contacting me if you're happy with it?"
Right.
Okay, so I understand my product's a little more expensive, but if I'm cutting your wash time in half, you're saving labor hours,
Yeah.
and your equipment's getting cleaner, which saves you PM time.
Mm-hmm.
So why is that not worth exploring? And once you break it down for people like that, they really understand that just buying the same watered down product based on price isn't the best strategy.
It's a very short-sighted way of seeing it, because you see the number, you look at the budget, and you take that bottom number
Yes,
and it matches. But when you dive into it a little bit more,
yes, ma'am.
it's actually cheaper because you're not having to pay the extra labor and expense.
Yeah, and we understand that times are tough. Like we understand, especially with the political transitions and with oil and gas leases going up and down. Like we get that, and so I never want anyone to feel like they're being bent over a barrel on pricing. Like I get that, so we're
Mm-hmm.
always happy to work with people. If it's something where they have to meet a certain line, we can extend credit out. We can extend things on to the next month. So there's options. But we want people to understand that we're not a normal product. It
Mm-hmm.
is a little more expensive because it's better.
Yeah.
And I like to tell people all the time, like, there's a reason Ferraris cost more than Hondas. And
Right.
you kind of make those little jokey analogies, and they understand.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those people have become fantastic customers
Yeah.
after they've tried it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's interesting, the journey that you went on when you decided it was time for a change, and you decided to move to Alaska,
Yes, ma'am.
and kind of explore that up there, and then and coming back. And so, clearly you got to go experience something that a lot of people don't. And then
Yeah, it was an interesting ride. I ended up going up there, and I opened two donut shops. Ran donut shops for a year while we were launching the degreaser business. And so a lot of people on LinkedIn knew me as like the donut guy in Alaska.
yeah, and I remember when I first started following you, I was not confused, but I recognized three things. It was Alaska, donuts, and degreaser,
Yes, ma'am.
but not really knowing, obviously, the
Yeah,
backstory behind it.
yeah. And so the donut shops was kind of just, I want to say, pet hobby while we were building the basis of the degreaser business. So we knew we were going to do it. We knew it was going to take a lot of capital and a lot of time. And so while David was setting up the infrastructure for the blending facilities and the bulk manufacturing plants and everything, I was working on my own consulting business, kind of on the side. And then I had time, so I lived in a town of about 15,000 people, and there was no donut shop. So I was like, my wife and we can do something like that.
Did you think of that on a whim? Like that
Yeah,
they need a
I
donut
went
shop?
to. I have 3 kids, and I went to buy them
Okay.
donuts, and
Okay.
the closest one was 20 miles away.
Hmm.
I'm like, well, man, I could
That's
start
not
a
going to
donut
work.
shop for 30 grand. Why not?
Wow.
So I started one, and we ran it for about a year and a half, and then the degreaser I started missing phone calls.
Oh,
Sleeping in
yeah.
the morning, my phone was going crazy. It's like, okay, what do I want to do long term? And I realized that the donut shop had value. It was the only one in that region. It was super popular. We were selling quite a bit of donuts. And so I spoke with David, and I'm like, hey, I think I'm just going to sell it and do this full time. And he said, absolutely, we're about ready to launch. And so we launched the degreaser in May of 22. And then I sold the donut shop in August of 22. And then it's just been degreaser full time since then.
And is that when you decided to move to Fort Worth?
No, I actually bought another house out in remote Alaska, in a little town called Willow. And we were just doing things online, doing
Okay.
remote marketing. I was doing sales over the phone, honestly, just cold calling people, trying to convince them to try the degreaser and buy it. And then we did that for about 2 years. And then this last August, I think David and I had a long conversation, and he said we're too busy. I can't do it by myself. And so I talked to my wife. Both of our families are from here, and so we said, well, we'll just go ahead and move back. I'll go back to helping David full time, and we'll be closer to family. The kids will be closer to family, and
Yeah.
we'll just do that. So it
So
worked out great.
Alaska was a chapter in the
It
book.
was. It was a chapter that I miss dearly, but I'm glad I'm here,
Yeah.
and I'm glad I'm helping grow the business.
Yeah. And
Because I
it's
felt like there was only so much I could do.
right.
I couldn't be hands on.
Not at all.
And so now I'm more hands on, and I feel a lot more rewarded.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, it's like really having to go of something good because something great was being
It's coming
built,
along.
and it's very sustainable. And like you said, with your families being here, makes a lot of
Yes,
sense.
ma'am.
And the future, the growth that you guys are looking at, it's better that you're here.
My wife is certainly much happier here.
Yeah, I would think that Alaska would be a challenging place to
It
live,
was.
challenging with kids and the different seasons. I'm sure it's rewarding and beautiful
It's
and
very beautiful.
very cool. And you guys are just rocking it with the donut shop.
It was. I think I confused more customers, about why I owned a donut shop while I'm still selling oilfield equipment.
Sure.
So I had that conversation 15 times a day. When someone asked me what I did for work, and "Oh, don't you own a donut shop?" I'm like, yeah, a couple of them. But I was glad to see that chapter close and just be able to focus on growing
Yeah,
this full time.
so that you're really like hyper focused on
Yes,
one
ma'am.
thing because those two things don't necessarily complement
They
at
don't
all. Like
at all.
I mean you could be, swinging by to get some donuts on your way to work, I guess, and then using the degreaser, but there's like as far as like the business alignment for you,
Yes,
it's two
ma'am.
different worlds.
So that's why it works out great. I sell some oilfield equipment on the side just for my consulting business. And when someone buys frac tanks or what it may be from me, it's like, here, let me give you some 5-gallon buckets of degreaser to try out, clean
Oh,
it.
that's cool.
And so there's a lot of synchronicity there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those guys are returning customers. And so I'm really able to focus on what's going to be better for the family and the business.
Yeah.
And it was a much better decision.
Yeah, well, that's great. I really enjoy hearing all of that because it can be difficult to navigate business.
Yes, ma'am.
And I mean, whether it's just you're in sales or you own your own business, it's just trying to figure out how to set yourself up and sustain that kind of success. It's like you've always got to be looking at the future while being very rooted in the present and becoming more knowledgeable.
So after we launched the degreaser, if you follow on LinkedIn, immediately there was 300 companies making degreaser because they saw that we were selling a lot of it. And so we got phone calls all the time of, well, so and so brought some other degreaser that's made, here in Odessa as well. And we just tell people like, okay, well, if you want to use it, that's fine, no problem. And well, then 3 months later, they're not making that degreaser anymore because people realize that it's a lot more invasive than just mixing soap powder in a tote
Oh,
and
yeah.
calling it degreaser. And
Mm-hmm.
so the fact that we've been able to build such a solid infrastructure to build off of, we're not going anywhere. I mean, we're
Yeah.
not concerned with the price of oil. We're not concerned with booms or busts, because everything's paid off
Hmm.
and we can set and weather it out.
Well, that and crossing over into different markets, and
Yes, ma'am.
it's not just oil and gas, but that would be that speaks volumes about the facility.
Yes.
To invest in that kind of infrastructure, like people are going to take you seriously.
Yes, ma'am. We don't have to worry about facility lease payments, anything like that. And now we're focused on, or not focused, but we're expanding off into government contracts, state facilities, prisons, so on and so forth. And so a lot of that is not rooted in oil and gas and is contractual.
Hmm.
So now that we're expanding that, it's only going to make us stronger.
Yeah. That's so exciting, Rustin. I love hearing about that, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys come out with next.
Yes, ma'am. We got a book full of things that we're excited to start manufacturing.
Yeah, and I think I can see that vision of the complete line of Hotter in Hell. And I mean, really, the sky's the limit.
Exactly. So
So,
we could take it a lot of different directions, so we're excited as well.
well, I'm excited for you, and I appreciate you coming on my show today and talking about it.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And thank you, everyone, for watching Power of the Permian. We'll see you next time.